which I want to focus on today. As Dr. Lankas mentioned, I've done a lot of work on intellectual property and access to information in the African context. But today I want to focus specifically on the issue of access to information for persons with visual impairment, print disabled. Look at that term, but that's the language used in the international intellectual property system, and also persons that are blind. So much of the work we've done in Africa has looked at the legal infrastructure, whether or not it facilitates or provides for individuals that fit this category. And we found that most countries don't actually have legal provisions within their national copyright law or legal system for persons that have any kind of visual impairment or are blind or print disabled. Now, to look at the statistics, since Dr. Copeland shared some interesting statistics there, the World Health Organization in 2017 estimated that some 250 million people around the world either have some kind of visual impairment. So meaning they are either blind or partially blind or have some kind of print disability. Same report is estimated that, or projected that by 2050, some 155 million people will be blind by the age of, by 2050, attributing that to the growing population around the world. That is a significant part of our populations, regardless of where you are in the world, and therefore has serious implications for access to information. But the World Blind Union in 2013 put out a report which showed that around 1% to 7% of the print output, books published every year, only 1 to 7% every year are available in accessible format. Just think about the books you see on the bookstands in airports, in the library, or even online as e-books. Only 1 to 7% of that output every year is available in accessible format. So what that means is that we have created a class or a group of people that simply have no access to information, and that is not that's not right. I think we have created. When you think about Chapman's theory of information poverty, we have intentionally created groups of people that are information poor, have no access to information. And that's not because we cannot provide that information. The technology is there, as Dr. Copeland mentioned, assistive technology, or technology to convert this information into accessible formats. The big problem we see, and of interest to me and us who are working in this area, are the legal barriers that have been created by the international intellectual property system, specifically the copyright law. So until 2013, there was no international legal infrastructure that allowed the creation, the distribution, and sharing of accessible content from one country to another. So if you have a book that is available as a talking book in South Carolina or in the United States or Australia, you could not legally transfer or share that book with a person that needs that work in Africa or Canada. So that was obviously because there was no legal mechanism that facilitates or enabled access of that content. Now, as you can imagine, it doesn't make economic sense for a book, that is available in accessible format in the United States to be made in Canada or Australia. I mean, for instance, a library in Australia creating the same book because it's very expensive. So what the Marrakesh Treaty to facilitate access to published works for persons who are blind, visually impaired, or otherwise print disabled created was an international mechanism to create or allow transborder or transnational transfer of content so that libraries and other cultural institutions can actually transfer content that is already created in one part of the world and made available in other parts of the world. So this is a very important international instrument, treaty, because obviously when you look at the global knowledge infrastructure or knowledge creation systems, much of the information that is created in one part of the world is not easily accessible in other parts of the world. And not because there's no infrastructure. We have elaborate library infrastructure in different parts of the world, less so in some parts than others. But if these libraries were able to share all the content they have, think about this in terms of interlibrary loan services, then much of the information that is created in one part of the world will be accessible in other parts. So what we are looking at in terms of the Marrakesh Treaty is to, in terms of research, is to look for ways in which libraries, as cultural institutions, as information institutions, can take advantage of this treaty. Certainly take advantage of national laws that implement this treaty, and make sure that we are actually providing access to information to people that should benefit from this international legal instrument. So the treaty creates mechanisms for institutions like libraries to reproduce, to distribute, and what we call making available of accessible content in different parts of the world, and also mandates those institutions to transfer across national boundaries or national borders the same content that has been created by those institutions. So our research within IFLA, which is the International Federation of Library Institutions and Organizations, is looking at ways in which we are going to empower libraries and library associations around the world to take advantage of this treaty. First steps we've made in terms of implementing the treaty is to create international guidelines for libraries. I am part of a small group of people that have put together guidelines for libraries to take advantage of this treaty within national contexts. So the next step is really collecting data, how libraries and countries are implementing the treaty, what are the unintended consequences, what are some of the gaps that the treaty did not anticipate, is it actually providing access to people who are supposed to benefit from this treaty. So in the next few years, you are probably going to hear much about the so-called Marrakesh Treaty and how it is implemented in different parts of the world. Here in the US, I think 2-3 weeks ago, a bill was introduced in Congress to domesticate the Marrakesh Treaty in the US. We hope that it will be successful in terms of domesticating the treaty so that the United States can be part of the growing number of countries around the world that have implemented the Marrakesh Treaty, and will be able to provide content that is already available here to other parts of the world, and likewise be able to receive content that is created elsewhere, because countries must be signatories but also have ratified the treaty in order to exchange information.